Welcome back to Scout the Shadows. I'm back. Drew's back. Let's talk some edge prospects. I mean, we're not only here to just talk about prospects and run through the same list that everybody else is. We're here. We're scouting for our teams. We're scouting for the teams we root for on Sundays. I'm glad that we're finally back in draft season because both of our teams are awful.
Yep. It is kind of the only saving grace for both of us right now. But we're both just praying for the merciful end of the season so far. But yeah, super excited to be back in the draft talk. Obviously, edge is a big thing. I feel like edge has been a need for Tennessee for like ever, and it just always is every year. So I'm always clued into the edge class. I feel like that was one of the first groups I watch. So really excited to be back. Obviously, not only talking about prospects, but that's always a fun episode to start breaking into some scouting reports. And yeah, super excited to get back into it.
I feel like the Bengals have taken their fair share of shots at edge. I feel like can't get anybody that's gonna be like a day one. Wow, glad we have that guy. So I mean, maybe pick a top 10 will fix that. But in this class, it's not feeling like it's gonna be likely at 9. But
yeah.
Anyway, let's start speaking of the Bengals with a Texas A&M guy. You want to introduce us to Cassius Howell?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cassius Howell is a guy that I think has been on a radar for most people, at least anybody clued into the draft for a while. Because when you were watching last year, obviously we had Shamar Stewart, Bengals guy, and Nick Scourton last year. He was kind of a guy that popped early to me, and a lot of other people. Was an underclassman that really, really popped on that rotation. And obviously stepping up as the main guy in that rotation this year on a really, really stacked A&M team. And Howell's lived up to way more than I thought he was going to be. I was a guy that's high on him during the summer, and even he's exceeded my expectations so far in this year. I think much like a lot of this class, he's going to be your kind of speed DPR type. So not a complete enough player for me to put him as a first round grade yet. I think he is a first round player in this class, but I can't really grade out a DPR as a first round guy to me. But I mean, he's just like twitched up to the max. I mean, he's so athletic, such a dominant speed rusher off the edge. Runs that outside track so well. I think he's got probably the best ghost move in this class. Another guy we're going to talk about later gives him a run for his money at that, but his ghost move is so sick. I think the swipe is awesome. The bend is probably the best in this class for my money so far. I think he's just got such flexible ankles. He gets almost parallel to the ground sometimes testing those tackles around the edge. Like I already mentioned DPR, I don't think he's going to be a guy you can trust on early downs in the NFL level. Speed to power is okay at a college level. Like you see some pop and some dry power when he gets in the frame of tackles at the college level, but it's just not anything I think is going to translate to the NFL. So probably a guy that is going to have to live as a pure speed guy, more like a Bryce Huff type. So yeah, I mean, I think he's a guy that's really, really fun to watch. One of my favorite watches so far. Not the most player in the world, but in a class that's pretty thin at edge, even though I think it's been talked about as a really good class, but I'm not sure I quite am there on it yet. In a class full of DPRs, he's definitely one of my favorite watches so far.
Yeah, no, I have to agree that I haven't been crazy impressed with any of the edge film that I've seen outside of a couple of these guys. But I do want to say on Howell that the film kind of reminded me of watching Shamar Stewart's film. Not in the sense, I mean, I think Shamar Stewart is a much more explosive and powerful athlete compared to Howell, for sure. I don't think anybody would have classified Shamar Stewart as a DPR, where I think Howell definitely fits that mold, like you touched on. But I just, as far as like the physicality, he's not afraid to kind of body up against some of these pullers and some of these chips. He'll battle through it and he'll fight through his fair share of holds. And I mean, he's gonna be a higher motor guy that has the physicality, build, and strength to do that. There's some of these other guys that we're going to talk about that just like they can kind of get bullied if they're getting chipped, or they can't really get off blocks as cleanly if they have to work through a double or whatever it might be. That's what really stood out to me for Howell. I thought he does just as a good job fighting through blocks. Now, if he had a better bag that he was more confident in, I think he'd be a lot smoother in general. But like you touched on, I think what he does and what he feels comfortable doing looks good enough. But you just like to see him clean some stuff up. I like to see him finish a little bit better. I do think one of the things that stood out to me most on his tape was, he'll rush the edge and he'll never let a quarterback really. If you step out of the pocket, he's going to get hands on you. Even if you try and roll out the back of it, he has a good job containing quarterbacks and making them step up in the pocket. I really think he'd shined in certain run defense situations. I think he's a good little player, good little rotational guy you can put in on multiple down scenarios. I don't think he's a true DPR. I think he can have a role as an edge in some heavier fronts, but overall, solid player, fun player to watch, but nothing that's gonna blow me away. But always like A&M guys. I feel like they're just fundamentally sound. And I feel like they're very assignment sound. They're just not really, the tape's never been that exciting to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I think gotta come in as day one like DPR guy. I don't think you're looking at like a project at all. But
sure.
I agree the bag is not super flushed out. Like I said, when you're a pure speed guy like he is with that dominant of a bend, I don't think you really need the full arsenal. Maybe I think that gets a little bit overrated in prospects sometimes. And I think, obviously we haven't even touched on the spin move yet, which is probably one of the highlights of his whole scouting report. I mean, this guy has one of the best inside spins that I've ever watched. Like it looks like he's practiced it like 20 times before he goes to bed every night for the past 15 years. It's just like he seals it to the inside so well, and it's so violent. And he covers so much ground to the inside. It's kind of one of the only counters he's got, which I think is going to get figured out at the NFL level pretty quick. But it's produced a lot of crazy highlights at the college level so far. So not a very fleshed out bag, but I think that inside spin does complement the speed and the ability to threaten that outside corner pretty well. But yeah, I mean, he's a pretty one-dimensional player, but I think he does his kind of one trick really, really well. So yeah, really, really fun DPR. And moving into some other DPRs in this class that are some pretty big names so far. A pair of Big 12 Texas Tech guys, both been really fun, probably the most fun edge duo. Maybe Miami's up there too, but one of the most fun edge duos, in all of college football this year in the college football playoff. Now that's David Bailey and Romello Height of Texas Tech. Parker, what's your kind of view on these two guys so far?
Yeah, I think they're very similar. I think there's a lot of hype around Bailey, just out of from the production standpoint. Obviously, he's the guy getting the numbers, so you're going to talk about him a lot more. But if you watch these guys independently in the film, they don't look that vastly different outside of Height, I think, just struggles finishing play, so he's not going to have that production boost when it comes to scouting him, pulling up box scores and PFF data. But when you watch them play, they're both really speedy guys. They both like running the hoop. I think they both can get bullied around the hoop a little bit, and they don't really have the strength to fight back inside if they get caught on really wide edge rush. But you got David Bailey, another spin move guy. He kind of forces that inside spin a lot, but when he hits it, it's awesome. And he's fast enough where if he can get the inside lane after hitting that inside spin, he'll really burst into the backfield and cause problems. They're both guys that can get pressures. I think they're both very like your typical third and long DPR, get him on the field, let him go run around, be fresh. They're high-end athletes. I think they're both going to test really well. People are going to love these guys coming out of the combine. I think David Bailey is going to have some crazy projections and hype coming out of the combine that'll die down by the time we get to the actual draft. Never forget that the film does not change after, here in a couple weeks. The film will always stay the same. You're not getting any new film. You're not doing none of that. That's all the same. Don't let the combine scare you like that, trick you like that. But no, I think overall, they're both, I think speed and athleticism can trick people into thinking they're bendy. I don't think either of them bend the corner well. They don't really shorten the corner that well, in my opinion. They're really good hand fighters, and they're athletes that can cut inside. That's really where they make their money as pass rushers. They're not going to be these bendy guys that can really hit these crazy ghost moves and shorten that corner. They both, again, they'll try different things. They both have a lot of different moves that they try and get to or they can get to. But overall, I mean, you're really just looking at guys that are athletic. They're probably going to have good arm length. They play pretty long, and they are good at avoiding running through a guy's chest. But if they get caught with an inside hand, it's kind of the end of their rush.
Yeah, I think they're two of the more fun conversations starting because I think Romello Height less so because I think everybody kind of has him nailed down at who he is as a player. But I feel like David Bailey, like I've heard 7 different versions of David Bailey from a bunch of different analysts. Like I don't think anybody has the same view of who David Bailey is as a player. I think obviously like he's most sacks in Power 4. I believe he still has that title this season. The production, like any of the analytics guys, are going to love this guy. I kind of just throw production out the window and just only watch what I see on tape, so that doesn't really affect me. He's going to grade out like as high as I'm probably ever going to give a DPR because I get really, really talented pass rusher. Like he's he's so long. Like you said, he's probably going to, I think the unofficial measurement is like 34.5, 35-inch arms.
Yeah.
Like he's got a ton of length.
You can see it. You can see it for sure.
Yeah, like, he can scratch his ankles standing up. Like he's one of those really, really long edge rushers. And he plays like it, uses it well. Ridiculously athletic. Like the twitch, the first step, just so explosive off the line. I think a lot of people talk about him as this like crazy bendy edge rusher. And I think he kind of, like you mentioned, where it tricks people sometimes, where you have these really, really fast, twitchy, explosive edge rushers that can win around the outside that way. That gets labeled as bend sometimes. But I wouldn't call Bailey bendy. I think he honestly, if anything, he leans more on the stiff side. I wouldn't like totally label him as stiff, but the ankles really are not that flexible. You don't see him get that low to the ground all that much. I just think that he really is so explosive that he just beats guys running outside track before they can get enough depth. I do think that, he was the other guy I mentioned alongside Cassius Howell, was like one of the best ghost moves in college right now. It's really, really fun. They're both really diverse pass rushers. They've got like Bailey has got a ton of moves in his bag, crazy inside and outside spin. They both have that height, and Bailey both have really fun spin moves. I think Bailey uses that spin more as a primary pass rush plan than he should. I wish he could use it more as a counter rather than, because you saw it as the season went on. He used the spin so much, and it's dominant. Don't get me wrong; it's one of the best I've ever watched. But you saw as it went on, he used it so much that guys really started to anticipate it, and he got punished for that. Especially Max Ahinakor in the Arizona State game got a couple of really, really good reps against Bailey because he was expecting that. I think Bailey, the length almost hurts him at a certain extent, because I think he's so used to having that length advantage that when he goes against somebody who might be another NFL caliber athlete like Ahinakor, like he gets way out over his skis sometimes. He gets that weight way off his center of balance, and he will get, again, like if he runs at anybody with a snatch strap, Bailey's going to he's going to end up with his face in the dirt a lot. I don't think he has the power to win through anybody's chest at the NFL level. I don't see him winning through the inside once that inside spin move gets kind of snuffed out. So I think he's another guy that's going to have to live as a pure speed guy. And I think he can live that way. But again, the ceiling is always going to be capped when you're just a pure speed DPR. You're never going to be able to win that much at the NFL. Nick Benito is kind of the best case we see in the NFL, is like a pure DPR. And even that's a lofty comp there. Not that they're that similar stylistically, but just, as DPR, that's kind of your ceiling in the NFL right now that you see. And height, again, there's a lot of similarities in their profile. Not everything's the same, but kind of the same explosiveness. I do think height is a lot bendier and a lot more flexible in the ankles than Bailey is. Same like crazy bag, spin moves, chop, club, stab. He's got a lot of really, really fun stuff. I think Bailey, again, both DPRs, but Bailey is at least he flashed some playableness against the run. Like there might be signs of life here and there for Bailey as a run defender. Romello Height should never touch the field on anything that's not a third down in the NFL. Romello Height is helpless against the run. Like, it's really bad. I mean, he's 230 pounds. That's going to show up, but it goes beyond that. Like, he's actively running himself out of every play, every chance he gets against the run. So again, I think Bailey is much more of a, he's a first-round player in this class, but he's an early second-round grade for me. I think Height is more of a mid-day two guy. So again, both really, really fun profiles, similar in a lot of ways, different in some. Really, really fun edge duo. But I just think, role-wise, these guys are always going to be capped with who they are. But again, both very, very fun DPRs to talk about.
I think my biggest issue with guys, kind of this mold that are a little longer, more athletic, more bursty, quicker. If you don't have that like ankle flexibility, you don't have true bend around the edge. I typically want to see you have at least either an answer as far as multiple inside counters, or enough power and strength and leverage to just drive guys back out of the corner. Like you've seen especially a couple of guys we're going to talk about later, when they get deep into the corner, the guys are not going to win that rep. They don't really have to spin back inside or try and swim or chop back inside. They can kind of just lever up and gear up through the chest and drive a guy into the quarterback. And you don't really see those guys do it very often. But a lot of like the push you see on their tape is just them getting lower than a tackle that's playing tall and just having that speed where the tackle kind of has to backpedal to try and keep up with it. So I don't know. I've always had the sliding scale of, flexibility to power. If you're a stiff guy, you better be able to run through a dude's face. If you're, quick and bendy, I don't need to see a lot more of that on your film. If you're showing me that you can shorten that corner in different ways and you can be, aggressive to the inside. But I just worry about both these Texas Tech guys because it feels like they do have limited ways to win inside, and you're not going to make a living in the NFL rushing the edge, especially when you don't have bend. like, freaky NFL bend, not solid college bend or something that can play as bend. So I think that's just, I've never been shy to talk about, my preferences and players, and these guys just really aren't my cup of tea. I could definitely see why you could get excited, especially about a guy like David Bailey, who I think has a lot of fun traits and has put a lot of fun flashes on film, and obviously has the production numbers that are going to get you excited. But just a guy that when I turn on the tape and I watch through a whole season, it's really just not going to do it for me. So, but that's just a fun group of guys, right? I think they all are slightly different flavors of DPR, but they all kind of fall into that bucket. And it's kind of fun to see, like a guy like Romello Height, I think could do a lot of fun things if you just put his hand in the ground. It kind of frustrated me watching him play out of a 2-point stance. And then you have guys like, not Height, I always keep getting this, Howell. And then guys like Height and Bailey, I think, are more of your traditional, we're going to stand them up on the edge, and we're going to let them just kind of be athletes off the ball. But yeah, just a fun little group of DPRs before we get into the meat and potatoes of this. And any last thoughts on the DPRs or how you evaluate a DPR while we're here?
Not necessarily. I just think, like I said, I don't think you can ever really give like a non-complete player like that into the first round. So like I said, these guys are as good as, or Bailey, I should say, is as good as you're going to get out of a DPR most of the time. But yeah, and I think back to the
big. A good DPR is not worth like a top 16 pick, in my opinion. It sounds.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, unless you're just truly unblockable, like a DPR is just not going to be that valuable. And like if you want to see some real bend in a guy like Donovan Ezeraku is a guy I was like, I'm not against these smaller speed rushers. Like I think Donovan Ezeraku was 8 on my final big board last year. And that's a guy who had actual bend. Like he was getting, like his shoulder was on the ground on some of those reps.
And he had the pad height and length. And again, that's kind of like we're talking about, like Ezeraku has the bend, has the length, but then also has the power where if he hits that corner and he's flat to the ground and kind of gets anchored up, then he can drive back through your chest and drive you into the pocket. And so he kind of starts checking those boxes, and that's how he starts rising up boards and gets a top 10 spot on a board or a top even 30 spot to land you in that first round. But I just don't feel like these deep. I mean, it's kind of like the whole Will McDonald thing, right? Like just because you're fast and you kind of look exciting off the edge doesn't mean you're going to really pan into anything. And if you're kind of a wild card, I'm not investing a top 32 pick in you personally, but
yeah,
other people kind of like the excitement,
Yeah, and that's a great thing to point to with Will McDonald, not somewhat a stylistic comp, but more just like how we're going to talk about them as players. Because I loved Will McDonald's tape. He was one of my favorite prospects I've ever watched, but I did not like him where he was taken just because of the fact, like, hey, he's a DPR. He's never going to be valuable enough to take him where you took him. So he's a good.
And again, I'm the guy. I'm the pro Jared Verse. Every DN now has to be Jared Verse for me to like you a little bit because he ruined evaluating edge rushers for me because he was such a blast to watch. Like a couple guys that, again, we're going to talk about a little bit later. Don't you worry. But again, it's just I love the Will McDonald tape being a guy that likes a more physical rusher. He's obviously wasn't that, but he was just fun to watch. It looked like he had a lot of stuff that you could put together. But again, yeah, you're going to take him that high. I think you just need I think you said it perfectly, but you just need a more complete profile. You need to be a complete player to be a first round guy. I can't draft a guy in the first round that I'm not going to trust for 3 downs in a row on the football field. So
yeah,
that's kind of, just
the next conversation.
Yeah. Just the DPR, world, I suppose. But let's talk some TJ Parker. Why don't we?
Yeah, kind of the antithesis to me of a DPR, where and he's definitely the guy I'm lowest on out of the group that we're going to talk about tonight. Which is strange because coming from somebody, I had him, he was top 5 on my summer big board. He was a first round grade for me. He's really stumbled like all the way down. He's a guy like a lot of the Clemson guys this year. I think he took a major step back from 2024. And he just doesn't have the NFL pass rush chops. Like this guy's never going to be a successful NFL pass rusher with the bag he currently has. Like again, 2024 Parker probably could have. 25 Parker, it's just like he's slow, he's stiff, he's not explosive. And I think like again, even in 24, like he was never, twitchy. He never had like the David Bailey explosiveness, like just straight line athleticism off the line of scrimmage. But he wasn't slow, he wasn't sluggish. And he had the power to make up for it where he can win through guys' chests. He's not going to threaten the outside corner that well. But, this year, I just don't think either way to win at the NFL has been there. I think that, like I said, still, he's stiff. He doesn't have the bend. The power is still fun at times. Like, I think the stab and the long arm and the bull rush have popped here and there. But I just think most of his wins came against more offensive tackles beating themselves or just unblocked pressures that did any like true high quality NFL wins against like NFL caliber tackles. There's no real counters to point to there. I think he has really good hands. Like that's the one place I keep coming back to with TJ Parker that I really love about his games. He's got great hand timing. They're just relentless hands. He's constantly going. He's never going to give up on a play. Just a white hot motor. He's got really good hand-eye coordination. Like his swipes are always going to land on time. He's got a really fun two-hand swipe especially for a power guy. But I just don't think the bull rush. He's not explosive enough to win through guys' chests or powerful enough to win through the ends like straight through NFL tackles. So I have a hard time seeing a path to success as a pass rusher for TJ Parker at the NFL level. But he could absolutely get drafted just as an early down run defender. I think he's still, the hands show up just as much in run defense as they do in pass as a pass rusher. He's got really, solid enough anchor to play as like a 5-tech against the run. I think he's got a fun stack and shed. I think he's absolutely an NFL run defender. And like I said, the white hot motor, those are all things he can get drafted for, and he's gonna be successful at as an NFL player. But I don't think he can ever. I would never want him rushing the passer for my NFL team. So he's a day 3 guy for me, early day 3, but a mid 4th round guy for me right now. That's a big fall from grace for where I had him in the summer. But I just have a hard time seeing him being a successful NFL pass rusher.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, Parker was my number 1 player on my board, maybe number 2 behind Love coming out of summer scouting. And a lot of it was because not only did he do the things that I really love about, just an edge player, again, the physicality, the violence, the relentless motor, just getting after it and being violent with your hands and really just, running through guys' face. But he also had that, like, the athleticism, he could bend the edge, he could fight hands and win inside with speed. It felt like he was unblockable at times in 2024. And then going through the 2025 tape, it felt like he lost kind of that edge. And I know, I talked, and I don't know if he put on how much weight he put on or what happened, but he looked a little just slower overall to me, and not slower in a way of like, oh, he's more patient, he's reading stuff out, he's trying to have disciplined eyes in the backfield, but slower is like he's not taking the edges fast. He's not winning to the spot on every single play. He's not, jumping inside and making these crazy athletic plays as a pass rusher. I think he kept a lot of his strengths as far as being a run defender, like you hit on already. I do still think he lost the ability. I thought he was denting offensive lines a lot more in 2024. I thought he was getting a lot more knockback in 2024. I don't know if that was, again, explosiveness off the line of scrimmage. I don't know if that was because he was playing lower. I don't know what changed. I didn't notice anything significant film to film outside of it just not being there anymore. And that's why, I'm starting to like settle into the fall off of TJ Parker needs to be studied, because this is a guy that I fell in love with, watching over the summer, and was like, this is like everything I could ever ask for. This is like, this guy's going to go top 3 no matter who's on the board, to a guy now where it feels like he is he's again just another, could very well be a rotational guy or a starter on a lesser defensive line room at the NFL, but he's just not going to like flash. He's not going to get you too excited too often. He's just going to kind of do his job and do his job well. There's nothing wrong with that, but I don't think he's going to do anything really above and beyond the Call of Duty at the NFL level, because at times it felt like he was kind of just an adequate college defensive lineman. There was times where it felt like he was just kind of just hanging with some of these college dudes, and I know you're playing some talent up and down the board, but there's some of these games I needed to see him dominate like I had seen him before against quality talent, that he just, again, was just hanging around and doing his thing and just not impressing me like I had seen him impress me before. And that's really what let me down with his whole evaluation of the 2025 tape. And I'm hoping that, it was just kind of an off year and he settled in, or he was dealing with some injuries. I know I saw a shoulder brace in and out of his film, and we'll see what comes out, as we always do. But I do feel like he's going to be a guy that, he'll start getting a little bit more hype again once they leave Indy and his numbers are out, because I do think he's going to test well. I do think he still has some athleticism in him. Again, if you put on the weight and he can't move as well as he used to, then shame on me for hoping, I guess. But I'm hoping that he still has a little bit of it left in him because I can't get over. I'll always remember 2024 TJ Parker. Always.
Yeah, he was just such a fun summer scouting eval, and it's really disappointing to see where the 25 tape ended up. But after what I feel like has unfortunately been kind of an overwhelmingly negative episode so far, we've just really hated on a lot of these guys so far. Now we get to talk about two of the most fun guys in this class. Currently, my number 3 and number 2 prospect on my overall big board right now. Leading into a guy, we're going to disagree on one of them, but one guy we can really just both dote on, and that's going to be Miami edge rusher Ruben Bain Jr. Really, really outstanding player. Parker, I'll let you take the lead on him.
I would love to take the lead on Ruben Bain because, again, I look for like 2 things on film, and then it's like I kind of put you in the my guy or not my guy bucket, and then I grade them all the same, but just kind of like guys I want to keep my eye on no matter where he ends up falling in the draft or on my board, but just guys that I like their style of play. Luckily, Ruben Bain was able to land in the my guy bucket and just fly up my board because he's an absolute monster. Like the first few plays watching him, I was like, I'd heard some of the hype. Obviously, you had talked to me about him. I heard people discuss him, and I kind of knew what I was in for or what I should expect. And, the kind of like the slow paced get off the ball, I was kind of like, he's kind of playing like a 3-tech. Is this a guy that's going to end up being just this defensive end that gets bumped inside, kind of like the Bengals are dealing with Shamar, just because he can be a little bit quick. He is really strong. He's a good run defender. Let's just put him in the B gap. Maybe he's going to play DN for a 3-4 team. But then we start getting into the film, and he's running through whoever is in front of him. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a tackle, tight end, running back, if you're on the slide side, if he's getting chipped, it does not matter. He's running through everybody. Absolutely everybody. And that's one of the things that I just love the most about watching defensive linemen play is these guys that just absolutely get after it. These guys that can just get off the ball and just cause havoc in every phase of the game, on every part of the field. And he's just that guy. He's got the relentless motor. He's got the violence in his hands. He's got the strength. He's got the athleticism. I wouldn't say he has any bend. I wouldn't say he's crazy bendy around the edge. I wouldn't say he's stiff, but I wouldn't say he's like a freak. But again, when he can take the edge and threaten you with speed around the edge, and then he can get back to it and just run through your face off the corner, and then all of a sudden the next play you're expecting speed and he runs through you, and then you expect the power and he runs around you. Again, it feels like, again, at times he's unblockable because he's a better football player than you are. And that's what you expect to see, especially these first-round caliber players. It's what you expect to see on their college tape. Just them lining up from across from a guy and dominating him for 60 minutes. And that's what Ruben Bain brings to the table. Again, I could probably talk Ruben Bain all freaking day, but just an absolute monster. Checks all my boxes because he's, again, violent, high motor, strong, still has that athleticism, isn't going to get bumped inside because he's not just a brick that just happens to play DN in college. I think he can handle at the NFL level. I think he can be flexible all the way from a 2 to a 9. I think he can do a lot for an NFL team. And he's definitely, he's going to go top 10 at worst.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head pretty much everywhere. I think somehow in December, about a week ago, we already hit the point in the process where we're going to start letting measurables, knock really, really good players down our boards. We heard, I think it was Brugler say like he's got day 2 grades from NFL teams. And I just have a really hard time believing that because this guy he's a top 10 grade for me right now, top 3 player on the big board. I just don't see what, like, we talked earlier about how you have to have, one consistent way to win in the NFL. And I think, like, whether that's around the corner, or whether that's through the inside, through somebody's chest, like Bain, I don't think there's a way he can't win. Like, there's no way that I'm.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like he's, like you mentioned, I think he's got some shades of Verse. If you're going through the Verse test, like we talk about sometimes, shades of Jared Verse.
I love the Verse test for both sides of the line of scrimmage, honestly.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he's now. He's got those, apparently stubby arms, which I don't see the length concerns really show up on tape. Maybe the arms are short. I don't really care because I don't see it on tape. But he will blow a shotgun-sized hole through your chest as a power rusher, like the stab, the chop, the bull rush. it's just outstanding. Like
when he hits it so low, you know, like
like the leverage is
such great
incredible.
pad level, and it has that power to just again he's lifting dudes off their feet. Sorry to cut you off, but I just
no, you're good. Yeah, like the A&M offensive line was probably the only guys I saw anchor him at all, and even then, like he got the best of him a couple of times. He's just like he's such a powerful rusher at 275 pounds. He's just like my comp for him NFL wise is probably Keon White is who I've likened him to. I think he's got a similar power profile and similar frame to him and similar usage. Not quite as diverse as a rusher as White was, but I think they, like I said, similar power profiles. But for his size, I know you said he wasn't the bendiest guy. I think for his size and his power profile, the bend is kind of incredible for a guy.
I agree.
Like 275 pounds. Like he's so flexible. He will smoke you around the corner if you're if you're slowed down on the power, you're ready to anchor. He will smoke you around the outside track. So explosive. He's just like a wound up spring, just a constant ball of kinetic energy. Like he's gonna blow a hole through you, however he does it. Outside track, inside. I mean, he's got like the dip and rip. He gets almost parallel to the ground on some of the dip and rip reps, like against Stanford. Especially that game was really, really impressive. I just think this guy, I think he settles best probably in that 5-tech range. But like you said, I think he can play really anywhere from like a 2i to a 9. Like wherever you want to put him, he's going to thrive. I think I'd probably put him at 5-tech if I was running a defense. But he's so versatile, and we didn't talk about the run defense yet. Like he's an elite NFL. I don't know, like he's a high end NFL run defender on day one to me. Like the hand timing is so amazing. He's got a great peek and shed. I think he's just always in control of the reps at the line of scrimmage because of that play strength. And I just, I don't see a whole lot of weakness to his game. And I think we'll talk, ad nauseum about the arm length issues all the way through the combine into the draft itself. But I just don't see a reason why this guy's not a top 5 lock in this draft class. And I think he absolutely should be.
I think, we'll talk about it plenty because it absolutely infuriates me. But we have to, because of how early it's come up, we have to talk about this because we cannot be having the disqualifying arm length conversation when we're not even in the draft year yet. First off, we cannot be doing this in December. We cannot.
In December.
I can't handle it. I can't do it. But the thing that I'll always say, and this is about offensive tackles, it's about edge rushers, it's about interior defensive linemen, it's about any player at any position, corners, safeties, linebackers. I mean, anybody. I don't care what the measurement of your arm is if you're able to extend and create separation as a pass rusher and in the run game. And like you said, and the thing that I've talked about the most, when I watch film on prospects, the first thing you're really watching for is like, is this guy clearly above the rest of the competition? Is he the best player on the field? Is he a top 5 player on the field right now? Then that's when we get into the NFL conversation, right? And I think, like you hit it on the head. I mean, when you're in control of reps like Rueben Bain is, when you're getting your hands inside and on the chest plate in the run game, and you're peeking and then tossing interior offensive linemen, offensive tackles, anybody that wants to line up across from you, you're controlling the chest, you're patient, you have a good anchor, and then you're shedding guys off their feet to make plays in the run game. And I'm watching you just surprise, and like not NFL, but surprise college tackles every single snap that they're getting into a pass set because they don't know if you're bringing power. They don't know if you're bringing speed. And you can do both very effectively for your weight. Like, again, if you just watch his speed rush reps and then you step back and go look at his height, his weight, like, it's impressive what he's able to do. Like, again, I think he just surprises people. Like, the first couple of drives of every game, it just feels like he's firing off the ball. They don't know how to handle him. So I just, overall, when you look like you do as a Rueben Bain, I'm just going to bet on you every single time. And if I miss, I miss. But I can't do he's got short arms, because when you watch the film, it doesn't matter. Again, tackle, tight end, guard, center, running back. He's getting in the chest. He's extending. He's long arming. I mean, he's getting one hand in your chest, and he's creating enough separation to get the job done. Like, he plays long. So I don't care if you have 28-inch arms. If you play and look like Rueben Bain, I'm going to assume that you understand how to use your limited length to its maximum potential, which he does. So I don't really care about the arm length because he's making it work, and he makes it look like he has long arms because of the leverage he plays with and the control of every single rep that he has. Again, Ruben Bain's probably my favorite player in this class right now, just because I could watch his film all day. I was talking to you earlier, Drew, about how when I go through film, I kind of like I'll put away just timestamps of clips to record later, and I actually immediately dropped an article and a film cut up for Ruben Bain when I was done watching him because I had to let the world know if they didn't know already somehow. But the list just kept going. I felt like it was like 5, 6, 7 plays a game where it was just like, holy, I got to start trimming some of these out just because I don't know if I have the time to put these all together, because it feels like every single rep he has is bound to be a highlight, and if it's not, just a sound play. So again, just a huge fan of the player. I'm going to be a huge fan of the player. I hope he ends up in the NFC because I don't want to deal with him.
Yeah, totally. I think when you're making the cut-ups for this guy, it just seems like you're jotting almost every single play down.
Yep.
We work, and again, normally it takes until like at least March before we start doing this, but we work so hard and I say we as draft media as a whole work so hard to talk ourselves out of good players. And I don't really get it. We can talk about, the fact that there's never been insert arm length measurement under this, Pro Bowl or pass rusher in the league. Okay. That doesn't make him a defensive tackle, like this guy is still very clearly an elite edge rusher. And I think you don't let the film speak for itself. If the film is good, I don't know what else you need. I don't know why we have to look at exterior factors and everything else when the film is good. It should be used to contextualize what you see on film and support it, not contrast it. So if the film is good, they're a good player. I think it's really is to rise that.
How many times have you and I messaged each other about a prospect already this cycle and just been like, I see X point, or I see people talking about this, and I think you hit on the head. People try and just talk themselves out of prospects. But how many times have you and I reach out to each other just like, hey man, if he's a good football player, he's a good football player. I don't really care what the paper says because I turn on the film and he's just a good football player. And there's Ruben and the next guy we're about to talk about are just good football players. And I don't care, what position you play, where you line up at, what stance you're in, I want you on my football team because you're a good football player. So that's all. We can just leave it there, brother.
Yeah, it really is just. I know the draft process as a whole, we've overcomplicated, and we want to continue to try to find analytic shortcuts and stuff like that. But I really just think it is as simple as if they're a good player on tape, don't overthink it.
Football players,
exactly. Which again, like you said, leading into our next player, which I think is going to be a really fun conversation because we both love this guy, but for very different reasons. And that is Ohio State's linebacker / edge hybrid tweener Arvell Reese. Who has really, really come on the scene just this year. He hadn't started really. He hadn't had any reps to grade. Nobody really knew about him in the summer because there wasn't tape to watch until this year. And in 1 year, he's just skyrocketed up to, potentially, and for my money, probably the first non-quarterback off the board in this draft class. And he is an edge rusher for me, and that's why we're talking about him in this episode. But we'll probably also talk about him in the linebacker episode for Parker. But as an edge rusher, I'll plead my case here for that. I think when it comes to these tweeners, like we've seen, Jalen Walker last year is going to be kind of my case study for Arvell Reese here, but we've also seen it with Abdul Carter switching from linebacker to edge rusher fully in his last year at Penn State. Obviously Micah Parsons is kind of the end goal of when you move these tweeners fully to edge rusher. But there's a lot of case studies out there. There's always, a Zaven Collins for every one of these you do. But Arvell Reese, I think when you talk about that point about always being in control of every rep at the point of attack, like we did with Ruben Bain, that is Arvell Reese, completely encapsulated. There's never, I don't think, out of all the games I've watched Arvell Reese this season, I don't think I've ever seen a rep where he was not in control of the point of attack. The arm length is really, really awesome, and he uses it really well. For a guy that's 245 pounds, I think he's probably pound for pound might be the strongest player I've ever watched. The disproportionate play strength with him, it's unreal. The amount of tackles that have 60 plus pounds on this guy that are just getting forklifted and completely thrown off the point of attack by Arvell Reese is kind of astounding. I think, obviously, I think, and I don't want to take away from what he is as a linebacker when I talk about him as an edge player. I think he's better at edge, so that's where I'm going to grade him. But I think he's also an outstanding player at linebacker too, which we'll talk about in our linebacker episode. But I think when you look at him as an edge rusher and his edge profile, he really you're looking at a lot of limited reps too. Like he's not Ohio State has not allowed him to just pin his ears back and play edge rusher a whole lot this year. But when he has, it's just the results are overwhelmingly positive to me. For a guy that's 245 pounds, the power arsenal is just lethal. Like the stab, the long arm, the bull rush, the speed to power. He's winning through guys' chests left and right that are, again, 60, 70 pounds heavier than him, that have solid anchors. It's really solid Big Ten offensive linemen that are just getting, blown straight through the chest by this guy. And then you pair that with his bend. He's so flexible, along with that power profile. I think he's got the complete package as an edge rusher, and we just really have not gotten to see it yet because they haven't let him. They've just continued to play him a linebacker, and I understand why, because again, he's a great linebacker. But especially for a defense that already has Sonny Styles, I don't really understand why we haven't seen him more on the line of scrimmage, because I think he's just so dominant there. And to me, you put your best players in the most impactful positions, and I think that's edge rusher for this guy. Just an immediate top end NFL run defender, whether that's at linebacker or on the line of scrimmage in his first day in the NFL. But I also think he's got potential. If we got in a full season, for my money, I don't think there's a blue chip edge rusher or a blue chip player in this class. Excuse me, overall, I don't think there's a blue chip guy in this class. But if Arvell Reese had been given a full season of edge rusher, I think he would be a blue chip guy at this point. The only knock I can find on Arvell Reese as grading him as an edge rusher right now is just the fact that we haven't seen him enough. When you look at his game, I don't think there's a whole lot of holes in his game, if any, as an actual edge rusher off the limited snaps that we've had. He is my number 2 overall player in this class. He's my edge 1. And I just think if we get to see like Jalen Walker, where you can project him to switching full-time edge at the NFL level, I think you're looking at a future All-Pro, and I think this guy is just outstanding.
Yeah, Arvell Reese not only does you can tell watching him play that he knows 100% not only what he's got going on, but what the entire scheme of the defense is and where he needs to be and when he needs to be there. And that's what really excites me about him, because he knows, even playing as an off-ball linebacker, he knows the right opportunities to run down the quarterback or shoot a gap in the pocket or, really force a quarterback into a bad situation. And I definitely see the appeal. As an edge rusher, I think he does a lot of great stuff around the edge. He's a super explosive athlete. I think he is bendy. I think a lot of the edges that we've been watching in this class aren't. I think he's extremely flexible. I think the power that comes out of his hands when he looks as small as he does on tape is astounding. He's kind of the opposite of Ruben Bain, where he looks like the off-ball linebacker that he is in that scheme, where he isn't this massive body. He's not absolutely yoked. He's just running around there looking like a back seven guy. But he gets down on the ball and he starts going, and he's running through people's faces. He's making guards look silly every time. That's a low key gripe of mine when I see some of these edge rushers get matched up on a guard one-on-one. If you don't win that rep every time, I just have a beef with you. I'm sorry, and I know that everyone, especially at the college level now, is getting paid to do their job. But man, you got to beat a guard. If you get matched up one-on-one with a guard, and that's on a stunt, whether you're lined up on it, doesn't matter. Go beat the interior offensive lineman. That is your only job. And he does it every single time. I don't think an interior guy can't even get hands on Reese, let alone block him. But just the explosiveness in his game at every spot on the field is impressive. And for this being his first year really getting a heavy rep count, I can't imagine what he's going to look like in 3 years. When he's getting to the end of his rookie contract in 4 or 5 years, I'm excited to see where he goes. But we have to have a conversation, because I'm gonna defer talking about how much I love Arvell Reese, because I think I need to have a valued conversation with you, Drew, because I understand that the edge rusher is one of the most valuable positions. It's the third most valuable position, as far as positional value goes in football. You got your quarterback, you got your offensive tackles, you got your edge rushers, you got your, whatever it is. From a football perspective, I just think you want your best athlete that has IQ like Arvell Reese does, you want him at off-ball linebacker. I feel like, I mean, the way that I'm watching him run down these perimeter screens, I mean, you're throwing smoke screens that he's getting to from inside the box on on the sideline. Like he's
Yeah.
he's literally sideline to sideline. He will start on the logo and he will make tackles on the sideline behind the line of scrimmage. Consistent.
There were 2 games, not to cut you off, but like to that point,
yeah.
like he just covers so much grass laterally, especially in the Indiana game, the conference championship, Big Ten. There were 2 reps where Mendoza was on a boot to the opposite side of Arvell Reese, or like a scramble drill, like he was on the move, the opposite side of the field that Arvell Reese was. And you see Reese cover probably 70 yards of ground, like not an exaggeration. Like he covers half a football field at least.
And it's not like these guys are like jogging
It's
around,
insane.
looking around. This guy's running. And
Yeah.
Reese will
He's just
track
that
you.
level of
It's
athlete.
like a jaguar. Like he'll run you down from anywhere. You don't even know he's there, and he's tackling you. Like it's his range is. I've never seen anything like it at that position. I've never seen, and like Peyton Wilson was a guy that I loved. I thought he was a crazy athletic linebacker at NC State. And he wasn't doing half of what Reese is doing. And this is his first year playing. He's out there playing football. And like I'll give it to all the pro edge guys. Reese struggles in zone coverage. He gets lost in zone sometime. He very clearly knows where he needs to be, but he kind of loses his receiver. I don't know if he's trusting the guys behind. I don't know what's going on, but he's losing these guys on crossers. He's losing these guys on double moves. Like in zone coverage, he's kind of just a spot dropper, which I mean, sometimes in the NFL, all I got to do is fill the window. But I just, I worry about him there. I worry about the ball skills. He's not really punching the ball out very frequently. He's not, and man, he can be pretty sticky, but I mean, he's not really contesting the catch. He's making that tackle though. I'll tell you what. But outside of some of the limited coverage issues out of the first year linebacker, I thought he was one of the most impressive linebackers top to bottom I've watched since I started really watching tape. And I understand that you want to put, hey, this is a really athletic, explosive guy. He's really strong. We've seen him rush the passer. It goes well. I understand wanting to put him at edge because you feel like that's a more valuable position. But I just feel like, again, overall high level, looking at how a football game works, I don't want to take that guy's playmaking ability out of the defensive backfield. I feel like you can still use him as a blitzer. You can still even DPR him on third and longs because you don't really want him as a coverage guy anyway. But I don't see why he can't be an early down. I mean, linebacker for you. I would never use him as a green dot just because I worry about him. Again, he's not going to be your best linebacker in coverage. But I think first, second down, short downs, or again, roll him up the edge, blitz him in the middle on third and long. He can be an every down linebacker. You just got to know how to use him. I think some of these newer defenses, like the Mike McDonald's, like the Brian Flores defenses, are going to love a guy like this and use him as an off-ball linebacker just so they can still have that playmaking ability on the back end. But if you allow this guy to tee off, he's going to get home. But I feel like if you line him up as a defensive end and he's a full-time edge for you, you're going to run into a lot of issues just over time. I don't know how well he's going to hold up over time, especially in a run-heavy NFL on the edge. I don't think he was a bad run stuffer. I think, again, he's really strong. He has a good base. He doesn't have a bad anchor. I wish it was better. But he's got good pop in his hands. He can kind of stand some guys up. I just worry about, again, these are NFL offensive linemen. I just worry about how he's going to hold up over time. I worry about his really three-down effectiveness. Because if we're talking about this guy being a top 3 player taken in the draft, top 5 player taken in the draft, then I need to be able to at least have full faith in you over the long term against the run if you're coming from linebacker to edge. Because I'm not drafting a DPR that high. I drafted an explosive guy. Not that I think he's a DPR. But I just feel like his overall impact for your team is maximized at off-ball linebacker just because of the ranginess, the power, the ability to threaten the interior more. I feel like interior pass rush is underrated. I feel like it's finally starting to kind of hit the mainstream, but this is a guy that's going to generate immediate pressure on the inside if you send him up the middle. And again, I just worry. I don't love the idea of lining him up against a left or right tackle for 50, 60, or even 30, 40 snaps. So I don't know. I don't love taking a guy with all this ability and talent and probably thrown on 10, 20 pounds on him and thrown him on the edge and letting them learn how to play defensive end. I think you let him be a playmaker. I think he ends up making a lot more plays for you down the stretch if you leave him off the ball because you can do so much more with him. I don't like him even in a Micah Parsons role. I want to let him be off the ball. I want to let him go just be a ball hawk and command the flats. I think he does a great job, especially perimeter runs. It feels like players just running into him because he's always there. He's great. He's great checking the far hip and force stuff back inside, but he always makes, again, he's just a sure tackler. Like, I just feel like with how bad tackling is across, football right now, he'd just be a great asset to have at the linebacker spot. So that's my rant. That's all I'll say on it now. But I just feel like, again, the value that he can bring being an off-ball linebacker for a defense, I think is just – no one likes drafting a true linebacker even in the first round, let alone that early. But he's going to be a difference maker, and he can still provide that. I mean, he provide a pass rush. I just don't want to see him do it every single snap. I don't want to see him stuff the run at all these snaps. I want to see him feel lanes because he reads puller. So yeah, man, I could just one of the best linebackers I've seen in my life, man. Just so fun to watch him play linebacker. I don't want to lose that just because people think edge is more valuable.
Yeah. I mean, I totally see that point of view. I don't think it's wrong. I don't think there's a wrong way to look at Arvell Reese. I just think it boils down to I think that I'm a little bit more comfortable with that projection, and I think I'm a little bit higher on him as a line of scrimmage run defender than you are. And yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit the fact that I think edge is a far more valuable position than inside linebacker when it comes to building a defense. Yeah, so I mean, I think, like I said, we'll probably touch on this topic a little bit more, not as much as we did in this episode, but probably a little bit more when we go to the linebacker class. So we got a lot of names to cover in that episode. It's a fun linebacker class this year. But yeah, I think
I do feel like I have to throw out. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're totally good.
I was just double checking.
Yeah,
I feel like I have to throw out. He is graded purely as an edge. Still my highest rated edge in the class so far. So I don't want to make it sound like I have no faith in him. I don't think this is a great class, but he's still the best edge that I have graded. Right, probably will be the best edge that I have graded in this class. I just feel like, again, I think he can bring a lot of value to the table. But anyway, I'll let you carry on.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
Yeah, I think he's again going to be an outstanding player regardless of what position he plays. I want to throw that out there. I'm higher on him as a pure edge, like a pure edge convert, than I would be as a hybrid or as a pure linebacker. But I think no matter where you put Arvell Reese, like he's an outstanding football player. Like what we were saying, draft good football players. Wherever you put Arvell Reese in your defense, he's going to be a difference maker. He's an outstanding ball player, whatever position he's playing. I just think he's best utilized as a pure edge convert. But yeah, like I said, we'll probably touch on that discussion a little bit more in the linebacker episode, not as fleshed out as we did just now. But that about wraps it up for the Arvell Reese discussion and for our first edge episode. Parker, if you want to have any closing thoughts or close us out.
For sure, man. Like, no, I'm pumped that we're back, man.
Absolutely.
I'm glad I'm watching film again. I mean, I didn't really watch a lot of live football this year, unfortunately, but getting into the film has been a blast because, like I've told you, I didn't really do a lot of prior research. I did my summer scouting, and then after that, I kind of haven't looked at any boards. I've watched a couple games here or there, followed some scores. I haven't really followed any players or watched many, boards. So I'm kind of excited to just watch some film and see what players I like. I'm kind of picking names, but I'm trying to do my best to just really let you send me names and a couple other guys just to, hey, watch this. Let me know what you think about this guy. What do you think about this guy? So I can really just get a raw, first look at some of these guys and just honest takes, and they land where they land. And I know I've already run into a couple tackles that I'm going to get yelled at for, and I just don't care at this point because I have felt very good about my O-line process for a few years now, and it just is what it is at this point. But no, I think overall, we've talked about it already. This edge class is kind of underwhelming. I want to make it very clear. This was not our top 5 or 6 edges. This is just the kind of the names that we've seen a lot, the names that we've seen at the top of boards, the guys that we wanted to talk about because they're in the media and they're kind of just a good starting place, especially if you're building your own board. This is kind of where I recommend starting. That way you can see at least what is supposed to be the cream of the crop. And then as Drew and I do and enjoy doing, as far as I know, we're going to find some gems for y'all later on. Don't worry. We're going to find
absolutely
that are worth watching in this class that are going to make a splash, whether it's at the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, one of the 15 other bowl games, whether it's they're going to be some of these combine guys that we watch the tape and we're kind of underwhelmed by, but we just know they're going to test well. We're going to try and put you onto those guys so you can be, as giddy as us when you start seeing people start talking about this guy you've never heard of out of some school that you've never heard of, but he has scored like a 9.8 RAS score, so he's obviously going to be a first-round pick. But I think overall, I'm just excited to be back in the season. Make sure you guys go check out our Substack, Scout the Shadows. That's where me, Andrew, I believe, are going to be posting kind of just our random thoughts on draft prospects. I know I'll be doing some think pieces just because I want to like getting thoughts out there, and if I'm going to type it up, might as well publish it. But kind of just about what I look for at certain positions or what I look for in general, and my thoughts on team building and draft strategy, and especially as I get closer to the Shadow Team crunch. Because so far this year, it's looking like it's going to be interesting for my team based on my needs and how this class is panning out. So I'm kind of interested to see how the draft goes for me personally this year. I know Drew's going into year 2 of your team, but again, just go check out the Substack. That's where I'll be posting all my thoughts. I know Drew, once the Titan season wraps up, because he's super busy right now covering that wonderful football team that he loves so much down there in Tennessee. But once the season wraps up, then I believe it's all go for the draft season, isn't it for you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll be turning all my written content over at paulkowarski.com. I assume will turn into Titans draft content. So it'll be, kind of one and the same what we're doing here as far as breaking down, scouting reports and ranking my players in this class. But yeah, we'll have, obviously more scouting reports and player breakdowns like we did tonight. We'll also have Shadow Team content like Parker just touched on. We'll have mock drafts. I think we're also planning to do like an off-season layout plan on how to fix both of our unfortunate NFL franchises right now. So that's something I'm really excited for. Yeah, we just have so much cool content planned for this draft season. I'm really excited to be back.
Yeah, and again, can't overstate it. We got a bunch of cool projects coming. And I'm even just excited to just get doing them, let alone, sharing them with you guys and be able to talk about it with my man, Drew. So again, just go subscribe to the Substack. It's totally free. Go follow us on X. Follow me at Parker Blake 60. Follow Drew at Iron City Film, as you can see there on the screen. And then, yeah, obviously subscribe here on YouTube, like the video. I'm very bad at saying that, but we do enjoy when you subscribe because that means that you care about watching our content, which we care about sharing with you. So subscribe YouTube, subscribe on the Substack, follow on X, and, just tell us how awesome our draft takes are. But we'll see you on the next time. I believe we're talking defensive interior, guys. So until then, guys, hey, keep grinding the film, brother.